Florida racist judges, giving blacks longer sentences to blacks. A Herald Tribune investigative report. Tough on crime. Black defendants get longer sentences in the Treasure Coast court system. By Josh Solomon, Emily Lacaze and Elizabeth Johnson. Stewart, Chase Lightner was 19 when he robbed 3 men in a 2008 drug deal. Lamar Lloyd was 21 when he stuck up a Pizza Hut and gas station the following year. Both men pleaded no contest to 2 counts of armed robbery. They went before the same judge, in the same courthouse. Each had a single misdemeanor on his record. They tallied the exact same points on the score sheets used to determine criminal punishments in Florida. But their sentences could not have been more different. Lightner spent less than 2 years in county jail. He is now free to golf and fish on the weekends. Lloyd got 26 years in prison. He will be 47 upon his release in 2034. That disparity is not unusual in the courtroom of Judge Sherwood Chip Bauer Jr. Since taking the bench a decade ago, Bauer has been tougher on those with a darker complexion, often sentencing blacks to 2 or 3 times longer than white defendants who committed the same crimes. Or in the case of Lloyd and Lightner, 13 times longer. During a meeting with the Herald Tribune, Bauer was surprised to see his sentencing numbers. But the judge stood by his record. Bauer said he tries to be fair to everyone who steps into his courtroom and that race is of complete insignificance. See Judges, A5. Bias. On the bench. Day 2 of 4 heraldtribune.com/bias. Judge Sherwood Bauer Jr. hears cases in his courtroom at the St. Lucie County Courthouse in Fort Pierce. Staff photos/Dan Wagner. Judges. Continued from A1. I don't believe in my heart that I sentence more harshly one race or gender than another, Bauer said. We all think we're fair. We would have never gotten into the business if we didn't. A year-long Herald Tribune investigation used 2 databases, one compiled by court clerks and the other by the Department of Corrections, to find that racial inequalities in criminal sentencing are rampant throughout Florida. Blacks spend more time behind bars than whites who score the same number of points under the state's sentencing guidelines. Blacks also are more likely to have their civil rights revoked, preventing them from voting and making it harder to find jobs and housing. Bauer's rulings still stand out. They are among the widest racial discrepancies in the 19th Circuit, one of the worst courts in Florida to be black, according to a statistical analysis of every felony case across the state during the past 12 years. With a shaved head, a military demeanor and a commanding voice, Bauer said he listens to pleas from family members and considers a defendant's attitude before determining sentence in some cases. When discrepancies arise, he said, they are the result of plea deals already worked out between the prosecution and defense. Almost every single one is negotiated, Bauer said. I don't know of a fairer way to play the game. The buck stops with the judge. No one calls Bauer racist. The chief prosecutor on Florida's Treasure Coast says he's a person of the highest moral and ethical character. A top lawyer in the rival public defender's office lauded Bauer's dedication to the law and common sense. 6 leaders in law enforcement used words like integrity, fairness, prepared, and professional to describe the judge. The 52-year-old conservative family man is characterized by colleagues as having a humble disposition in the courtroom, displaying a sense of humor when the time is appropriate and standing as a pillar in the community even when he's not wearing the robe. To his peers, Bauer embodies all of the qualities desired in a judge. But records show that since joining the bench, he has sentenced blacks convicted of robbery to more than triple the time of whites who committed the same crimes under similar circumstances. That equates to nearly 5 extra years in prison. How do you sleep at night when you do something like that? Said Reverend Jerry Gore, president of the NAACP of Martin County. When you go to the jail or the courthouse and start talking about African American problems, they say, nobody gets treated like that. That doesn't happen. We don't behave like that. But these things actually do happen. If an African American robs a Circle K and a Caucasian robs a Circle K, the African American is getting more time. We know it's a problem here. But who are you going to talk to? Where do you go? Former Governor Jeb Bush appointed Bauer to the 19th Circuit Court in May 2005. The position is nonpartisan. Bauer is registered as a Republican with the Martin County Supervisor of Elections. He never drew a challenger and was unopposed in his bids for re-election in 2006 and 2012. His name has never appeared on a ballot before voters. Bauer spent his first 3 years on the bench in rural Okeechobee County before moving to felony court in Martin in 2008. He has overseen civil cases, substance abuse issues and mental health matters. He now works family court in St. Lucie County. Through it all, Bauer has been harder on blacks, according to a Herald Tribune analysis of points assigned to defendants in more than 1,800 cases heard in his courtroom. These points are based on the nature and severity of the crime committed, as well as other factors such as criminal history, use of a weapon and whether anyone was hurt. The more points a defendant scores, the longer the minimum sentence. A judge can depart from the minimum if a defendant is cooperative or needs special treatment, but the law says any departure must be explained in writing. Florida legislators who drafted the law said they created the system to ensure defendants with the same charges are treated equally by judges. But Bauer handed down an average prison term of 497 days to whites convicted of burglary. He gave blacks with the same scores nearly triple that time. He sentenced blacks to 5 more months for third-degree felonies, the data shows. He handed down an additional 14 months to blacks on second-degree felonies. He also gave blacks an extra 2 years for the most heinous crimes, despite scoring identical points, according to the Florida Department of Corrections data. The buck stops with a judge at the end of the day, said Beverly Gary Hamilton, an attorney and president of the Florida Treasure Coast chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union. That's where liberty hangs in the balance. In the cases of Janine Sheehan and Rethema Delancey, both women were charged with felony drug crimes. Both tallied 28.4 points on their sentencing scree sheets, indicating they should receive matching punishments. Both went before Bauer. The judge gave Sheehan, a white woman, 6 months in county jail. Delancey, who is black, got 18 months in prison. Terrence Berry and Edward Mueller each scored 32.6 points for felony drug charges. Bauer gave Berry, a black man, 2 years in state prison. He let Mueller, the white defendant, walk with probation. Convicted of felony driving with a suspended license, Matthew Way and Cornelius Robertson had identical points at sentencing. Bauer sentenced Robertson, the black man, to almost double the time. Bauer also gives more second chances to those who look like him. First-time offenders and those the court finds unlikely to re-offend can earn a fresh start through a process called adjudication withheld. This removes the label of convicted felon from a defendant's record. That discretion lies with the judge, and for those in Bauer's courtroom, the reprieve is slanted. Across third-degree felonies, Bauer offered to withhold adjudication for 14% of black defendants. The adjudication withheld rate was 23% for whites. That means even though they were charged with crimes that the law considers equally severe, blacks were more likely to lose their civil rights, such as voting or owning a gun. "We call it a kangaroo court," said Jackie Gore, a retired corrections deputy and wife of the local NAACP president, referring generally to courts in her county. Blacks are afraid to go through the system because they're afraid they're going to get railroaded. There's no justice. The stick-up. Carolyn Robinson knew something was wrong the night of March 18, 2009. She startled from a deep sleep. Lloyd, her stepson, was missing. He was on a crime spree. First, Lloyd and another black friend from work walked into a Pizza Hut. Lloyd was unarmed, but his friend pointed a revolver at an employee and demanded money. The pair left with $150. Next, they hit a Sunoco gas station. His friend again took out his gun and ordered the clerk to empty the drawer. This time, they took $400, along with some tobacco and chewing gum. See Judges, A6. The St. Lucie County Courthouse in Fort Pierce. Herald Tribune staff photos / Dan Wagner. Residents of East Stewart say the criminal justice system treats black defendants more harshly than whites. Judges. Continued from A5. After his arrest, Lloyd confessed to the crimes. He got 26 years, while his partner was sentenced to back-to-back life terms. He had no reason to rob anybody, said Robinson, Lloyd's stepmother. He worked. I was making good money and would give them what they wanted. Known for being handy, Lloyd grew up in Broward County and had been in Stewart for less than a year. He moved there with his stepmother, studied air conditioner repair at Indian River Community College and worked at Walmart. Lloyd's mother died when he was 12. He now considers Robinson his mom. She considers him a good kid. The ambush. 3 men gathered at the back corner of a subdivision just before midnight. They were going to meet a pair of women they had found online to exchange drugs for sex. It was an ambush. Attackers jumped out of bushes. So,